Hello, Storytime friends. Thank you so much for joining us for another lunch break Storytime this afternoon. If you haven't seen me before, my name is Miss Ann, and I'm the Early Literacy Specialist for Lincolnwood Public Library. Now, all that those grown-up words mean is that I get the pleasure of being able to do all of our story times and all of our other programming for our littlest kiddos and their families. And now that we're virtual, now that we're doing our programming virtually, all ages of kiddo can come to my programs. And don't we all need a little bit of the magic of story time? I'll tell you, even our grown-ups need it. Even our grown-ups need it. Now at Storytime, if you haven't joined us before, we have a hello song that's the exact same every single week, our Hello Friends song. Now our Hello Friends song has a few special sign language words, American Sign Language words in it. It has hello, which is tucking our thumb under our flat hand and saluting from our forehead. Hello, hello. It has friends, which is just taking our two pointer fingers separated out from the rest of our hand. Now this is a little bit of a stretch for our tiniest Storytime friends, so if they can't get it right away, that's just fine. That's why we practice every single week, right? Separate out our pointer fingers and they hug. And when they hug, they switch sides. Friends. And if we're ready with those two, if we feel confident that we know those two, we can add two more signs for our hello sign. We can add time, which is just taking our wrist flat and pointing to it. Like, look what time it is. We're pointing at a watch. Imagine you're wearing a watch right here and you're pointing at the time. And you can add say, which is just taking your hand flat and tapping it to your chin. Now, if you want to just put it right in front of your chin, that's fine. I know that we're all teaching ourselves not to touch our faces to stay nice and healthy, so that's fine if you want to just put it right in front of your chin when we do that part of the song. I think we're ready to sing together. Hello, friends. Hello, friends. Hello, friends. It's time to say hello. Oh my gosh, Storytime friends, I know it's not really possible to hear you out there since this is just a recorded video, but I feel like through that magic of Storytime I can feel you out there singing and welcoming all of us together. Excuse me, now I have a certain print on my dress that will give you a key as to what theme we're talking about today, and I bet our grown-ups are the only ones that are going to be able to recognize what that is. Those are due date cards. Before we had all these computers at the library, when we wanted to check out a book, there was a little card that was inside of the front cover of the book, and on that card would be the name of the person checking it out and the date that it was due. So when you checked out a book, you would go to the desk and the librarian would open up the book, write your name, and use a special stamp to stamp what day the book was supposed to be returned back to the library. Now that's not quite how we check out books today, is it? No, when we check out books today, we go to the front counter, same thing, right? And the librarian scans the book with the computer, right? Scans the book and scans your library card. And all inside the computer is where that takes place, right? Then when it's all done, when all of your books and your movies and your CDs and your video games and everything else you've checked out from the library is all done, you get a receipt, right? Sometimes you get a paper receipt. And sometimes you get a text or an email. Your grown-up might get that on their phone that tells you all of those due dates. It's so different. It's so different than it used to be with those little due date cards. But you can sometimes find a library that has one or two books that still might have this little card in the front cover. One or two left over from those old days of due date cards and checkouts without the computer. Now I bet that with all this library talk, you've guessed what our theme is. It's libraries. This week is a very special celebration called I Love My Library Week. And I do love my library so much. I love my library and my librarians, the people that work in the library, right? Because they are so good at helping. They always are welcoming and kind. And the library has so much to offer. There are so many things we can try at the library. We don't have to spend any money to do it, right? If we want to try a new hobby or a new activity or craft, if we want to spend some time with other people outside of our family. I know I can't wait until we get back to that thing that the library does so well, which is socializing with one another. I love that during the pandemic, the libraries have been so creative and the librarians have been working so hard to make sure that we're still enjoying ourselves, that we still are educating ourselves, having fun, being able to communicate with one another through virtual programs like these story times, right? Or our video game tournaments online. There are so many creative things that the library is able to do for us, and I just love it. I love my library for so many different reasons. Oh, Skittles is here. She's very excited to say that she loves the library too, so she pushed the camera over. She pushed the camera over. Now, have you ever heard of a phrase, someone being a bookworm? Have you ever heard someone call someone a bookworm? Right? It usually means someone who devours books, who eats books up like they're eating dinner, and they're eating everything on their plate so fast, right? But there are actually some bugs, not quite worms, but actually some bugs that do like to eat up pages of books. So sometimes very, very old books that weren't stored properly will have little itty bitty holes in them from those buggies eating them up. Now today, we have a pretty friendly bookworm with us. This bookworm promised that she was not going to eat any of our books here today. She promised. She's here with us, and you're nodding. You promised that you would not eat up any of our books today. Thank you. Thank you. I would prefer my books not have holes in them. Thank you for not eating them. Now this bookworm doesn't want to eat the books, but she does want to hide. Now, I'm going to put the flannel board right underneath the camera so you can't see, because she wants to hide behind one of our colored books. We have 5 different colors of books, and I bet you know all your color words. I bet you're going to be such an expert already. And she's going to hide behind one of those books. We're going to try to find her. Do we see all of our books? All right, what colors do we have? Let's see. We have yellow and orange and blue and green and purple. All right, so this goes with, I'm trying to get my face and the board in. Let me move back a little bit so that you can see. There we go. So this goes with a little bit of a rhyme, this guessing game. Bookworm, bookworm, hiding in a book. Are you inside the, and then we say which color we think bookworm is hiding behind. So if there was a red one here, we would say, are you inside the red book? Let's take a look. All right, so you guys are going to have to guess with your grown-ups. You're going to have to tell your grown-ups your guess. Since I can't hear you, you should tell your grown-ups which book you think. Let's do the rhyme all together too. Let's say the rhyme all the way together. Bookworm, bookworm, hiding in a book. Are you inside the green book? Let's take a look. Let's take a look at that green book. No bookworm. Oh, green book was a bust. No bookworm inside green book. Be ready for another one. Bookworm, bookworm, hiding in a book. Are you behind the yellow book? Let's take a look. No bookworm. I don't know where bookworm could be hiding. She's a very good hider. Bookworm, bookworm, hiding in a book. Are you behind the blue book? Let's take a look. Bookworm was hiding in the blue book. Oh my gosh, what a tricky little bookworm she is. Now, bookworms, whether they're real, like our little bookworm who loves to hide, or whether we're just saying that someone is a bookworm, is someone that loves to read, right? That loves to be around books. So I think maybe we should do a little bit of a rhyme about loving to read. Yeah, and this rhyme goes to the tune of If You're Happy and You Know It, which I know you guys know that song out there. Instead of happy, we're going to change it to If You're a Reader and You Know It. And now we're going to clap our hands and maybe stomp our feet. Maybe shout, I love my library. Should we do 3 different verses? I think that we should. I think we should do those 3 verses. Clapping, then stomping, then shouting, I love my library. Are you ready? If you're a reader and you know it, clap your hands. If you're a reader and you know it, clap your hands. If you're a reader and you know it and you really want to show it, if you're a reader and you know it, clap your hands. Should we do a stomp our feet now? If you're a reader and you know it, stomp your feet. Stomp, stomp. If you're a reader and you know it, stomp your feet. Stomp, stomp. If you're a reader and you know it and you really want to show it, if you're a reader and you know it, stomp your feet. Stomp, stomp. Oh my gosh, are you ready for our last verse? Our I love my library verse. Can you shout it nice and loud? If you're a reader and you know it, shout, I love my library. If you're a reader and you know it, shout, I love my library. If you're a reader and you know it and you really want to show it, if you're a reader and you know it, shout. One more time. Should we make this the loudest time? I love my library. Oh my gosh, you guys did such a good job. And I feel the library love out there. Now, if we want to have even more fun with the library, with our bookshelves at home, our library at home, or the library at the real library at Lincolnwood Public Library, or your other local public library if you're not from Lincolnwood, if you're watching from somewhere else, we can play a little bit of a scavenger hunt game. Now, I'm going to put the scavenger hunt sheet in the comments for the video so that you guys have it at home. But this scavenger hunt is all about finding different types of books. So I'm going to show you some of the ones that I found for my scavenger hunt. One of the items on the scavenger hunt is a book of poems. Yeah, do you have any poetry books at home? Poetry is so cool. I promise that it's not just the boring poetry that they make you study in school. Grown-ups, I know you're probably having some flashbacks to some boring poems you had to read. Not all poems are like that. You can find poems of every type. I found a poem book on my shelf called A Pizza the Size of the Sun, and you can already tell these are some pretty silly poems. These are some pretty silly poems in here. That's my book of poetry that I found for the scavenger hunt. Let's see. Another item on the scavenger hunt is a book with an animal on the cover. Do you have one of those at home? There are so many great animal books. One of my favorites, the one that I found for my library scavenger hunt, is this book, Angelina Ballerina. Oh, if you haven't seen her before, she is the cutest little mouse, and she loves to dance. Let me find you a picture of her. She loves to dance. There she is, dreaming of all her special dance moves that she's going to do at her recital. That's the book that I found for a book with an animal on the cover. Another one of the items on the scavenger hunt is a book with words other than English words in it, right? So I have some books at my house since I learned Spanish. I have some books at my house that are in Spanish and English. And one of the ones I found for my scavenger hunt is this Dora's Book of Words. I really like this one because it has all the words in English, and then if you pull a little tab at the bottom, it changes them to the Spanish words so that you can learn them. Now, whether or not you speak another language at home, if you speak another language at home, you might have a much easier time finding some of those books on your own bookshelf. But at the library, we have so many different books that have English and another language that are called bilingual books, right? Like my Dora book. So even if you don't speak that second language, you can learn the words in context, right? You can learn them from the clues and from the English words that are on the page. That's such a great way to get some language exposure for your kiddos, is to find a book with more than one language in it. More than one language. Oh my gosh. I bet that you guys are going to have such a fun time on your scavenger hunt. Please share with us the books that you find on social media. Go ahead and post photos. Let us know about your scavenger hunt, especially if you do your scavenger hunt inside the library. We would love to know about it. We would love to know what special books you find during your scavenger hunt. All right, so I think that we have one more rhyme. I think we have time for one more rhyme before we do our goodbye song, sing goodbye to one another. I think we have time for one more book rhyme together. I'm gonna get the lyrics nice and ready. Oh, I'm gonna tilt the camera a little bit so that it's not so tilty, so that it's not on an ankle. Now this song goes to the tune of The Farmer in the Dell. Do you know that song? The farmer in the dell, the farmer in the dell. Hi-ho the dairy-o, the farmer in the dell. Oh my gosh, you guys got it. But this is all about libraries. So it's gonna start like this. And don't worry, I'm gonna go ahead and put the lyrics for this one in the description for the video so you can follow along. You could also just rewind the video and watch it again and again until you pick up the tune. So the first verse of this song goes like this. It's library day, it's library day. We're excited to get to play, it's library day. Oh, it's the most special day of the week, going to the library to pick out some books. And the extra most special day of the week, a story time day. Our second verse is all about story time. Story time is here. Story time is here. Friends have come from far and near, 'cause story time is here. Oh, that's so true with virtual story time, isn't it? We have friends from all over the place, all over the place. One of the best parts of virtual story time is getting to see friends from all over, not just in our local community. Now our next verse is all about one of our favorite activities in story time, singing and rhyming and reading. We sing in story time, we sing in story time. We read our books and say a rhyme, we sing in story time. Oh, and our very last verse is about checking out our books, right? Just like we talked about with our old school checkout cards and our new computer checkout systems. Our last verse is all about checking out a book. We're checking out a book, we're checking out a book. I looked and looked and looked and now I'm checking out a book. Oh, the best feeling when you've found a really great book to take home, isn't it? Should we do that rhyme one more time together since it's brand new? It's library day, it's library day. We're excited to get to play, it's library day. Story time is here, story time is here. Friends have come from far and near, story time is here. We sing in story time, we sing in story time. We read our books and say a rhyme, we sing in story time. Our last one, our checkout verse. We're checking out a book, we're checking out a book. I looked and looked and looked and now I'm checking out a book. Oh my gosh, Storytime friends, you guys are so great at rhyming and you're such great library lovers. You're such great library lovers out there. Thank you for loving the library and for loving Storytime. It means so much to us. All right, now the other thing that we do every single lunch break story time before we sing goodbye to one another is we do a little bit of an imagination meditation, right? Now, if you haven't joined us before, you might be thinking to yourself, what, a meditation for little kiddos? That can't work. But I promise you it can, because this is not a regular meditation. This is a special imagination meditation. So instead of sitting still and closing our eyes and trying not to think about anything, we sit still if we can, but if we can't, no big deal. And we close our eyes if we can. If we can't, no big deal. And what we do instead of trying to clear our minds is we imagine something. So for lunch break story time, we imagine that we have a mug of something really warm, like soup or hot cocoa or tea or coffee. And when something's super warm, we have to blow on it to cool it down, right? So we blow our breath out. Then we pretend to take a sip of our drink and we breathe in. And then as that drink goes from our throat to our chest to our tummy, we let the breath out. So our pattern, our breathing pattern is out, in, out. And we do that 3 times. And if you can only do it 1 time or half a time, that's just fine too. All right, are you ready? Cool down our soup, ready to take a sip. Ready for a second time. Ready for a third time. Oh, does your body feel any differently? My body feels a little bit more loose, a little looser, a little more wiggly, like a spaghetti noodle, a limp spaghetti noodle. Whereas during the day before meditation, I usually feel kind of tense. I wonder if you feel tense in your body too. It can be interesting to see how different our body can feel after something so simple, just a couple minutes of doing something like our meditation, something else that calms us down, maybe running some cool water over our wrists, taking a nice bath or a shower. It can be such a change in our bodies afterwards. All right, now before we sing our goodbye song, I have a couple of announcements. Now you've heard me talk about this one before, our dial-a story. This week, our dial-a story is full of stories all about books and libraries because we are celebrating. So if you call our dial-a story number, which is 847-999-7600, any day of the week, any hour of the day, 24/7, can call in and you'll get a menu of story options. So there'll be some picture book options. Both of our One Book One community reads are on there. So our picture book one for families, which is Outside Inside by Laywin Pham, and our grown-up chapter book called The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Those are both up there. Got some picture book selections. We've got a chapter book that we're reading. We're reading The War That Saved My Life. So there's a new chapter every week of that book. So many options. And if that is not enough Storytime magic for you, all of our video story times are saved here on our playlists. So if you need some story time and you are during the nighttime when you're making dinner, during the day when maybe you're trying to work or get something done, all the playlists and our dial-a story are there for you any time of day, any day of the week, anytime you need a little bit of a story time magic moment in your day. All right, now it really is time to say goodbye to one another. Now our goodbye song is the exact same as our hello song, except we say goodbye in sign language, goodbye, instead of hello. All the rest of our signs and the lyrics are the exact same. Are you ready? Goodbye, friends. Goodbye, friends. Goodbye, friends. It's time to say goodbye. Oh, goodbye, my Storytime friends. I miss you, and I hope you and your families are staying nice and healthy and safe.